Oh my God, Chinese people are more savage than English people. Like, the way they roast people online is hilarious. You could literally be dragging yourself around the school on your hands and knees, and they'll be like, "You ain't got a fever, it's all right."
Yeah. You might not agree with everything, but you're not going to change 5,000 years of history
Exactly.
in the space of 6 months. Mate.
Yeah.
Like, you're not.
What is your impression of Chinese people?
Very different to what you'd be expecting people to think they are if you just watch like news from the West and you haven't been here. Like, people seem to think the Chinese people are like a hive mind.
Yeah.
Whereas they're not. You know, people have political opinions, people have personal opinions, people have all these different things that sounds obvious, but a lot of people don't seem to realise. So yeah, Chinese people are a lot friendlier than you'd give them credit for if you just watch Western news. Yeah, they're... Yeah, I mean, obviously there's bad people, but there's bad people everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, but like, generally speaking, it's a very nice place, it's safe. That's the big one. Like, I don't feel comfortable walking around the north of England at like 10 o'clock at night, but 3 o'clock in the morning I'll be walking down the highway here, won't bat an eyelid if people start walking up towards me and stuff.
Yeah, I've been drunk at like 3, 4 in the morning, walking places by myself, and I've just been like, I don't know if will touch me. You know, you can leave your phone on the side and none will touch it, anything like that. But when it comes to Chinese people in general, like, they're very willing to help you as much as they can. Even if there's like a slight language barrier, they'll try and help you and everything like that. And then I follow a lot of Instagram pages where it's like, something's happened in China which is quite funny, and they read you the comments of what Chinese people have said online. Oh my God, Chinese people are more savage than English people. Like, the way they roast people online is hilarious. I sit there just giggling to myself for ages because they're so creative with their comments. But obviously when you talk to them, like, when there is that language barrier occasionally, you don't hear that humour. And obviously when we don't speak the language as much, we don't hear that humour sometimes. So to follow some Instagram pages that have that, like, I feel like it connects me a little bit more to like what some people are like over here.
A good example of like Chinese people being nice, when my parents came over like 5 years ago, and we were in like a steak restaurant, and obviously I've been here for a very short period of time. I can't even do the Chinese I can do now sort of thing. Yeah. And so I'm sat there going like, because the menu's all in Chinese and Chinese characters or Chinese pinyin. There's no English on it. Yeah. And so people genuinely, like, customers got up, went to the kitchen, spoke to the chefs, and people just started bringing the different things out, going, "This is this. Do you want this? Yes or no?"
That's really nice.
And they just literally pull things out. And it was lovely. And, you know, even at work today, so we've been ordering stuff for Halloween events.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
And just the fact that, like, anytime we spend money, even though we make more money, they are like, "No, here's the money. Give it. Let us pay for it. Let us do this. Let us do this." Because they, you know, they're like, "You're in our country. You're our guest." There's a very much "you're here, you're our guests" kind of feeling of people.
Yeah, so basically, like, we have a classroom budget of like how much money we get towards our classroom and everything like that. Ours is 200 RMB, which is about like £20 back at home. My other Chinese teacher, she won the best materials in the class, didn't she? And because the materials she used were actually my materials, she won a like a Jingdong, like JD voucher that was like 100 RMB. And she was like, "No, I'll give it to you." And I was like, "I don't want it, like, you take it. I don't really know how to use like Jingdong very well." And I was like, no, you take it. Obviously, me knowing in my mind as well that I earn more money than them, I want them to have it. Like, you enjoy that money. So later on, she came back over to me and she was like, "Do you want some milk tea?" I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll accept the milk tea," you know. We always try our best to be like, no, like, we want to give things to you because we know we do earn more as foreigners. But they're always like, no, don't, we'll give you something.
Then same if you go out, like, I know we don't go out with him much anymore, but Alan, like the first guy I made friends with when I moved back to Beijing, first Chinese guy, we'd go out for meals with his family quite regularly, and if you try to pay the bill, they'll basically confront you and like force you out the way, and force you to allow them to pay. Like, one time I did sneakily pay it and he got genuinely upset about it because he was so like, no, you're here with my family. This is my responsibility to look after you. You're in my country. It's my responsibility to look after you.
Yeah, I remember you've done that a few times as well, Lynn. Where I've just been like, no, Payne, you're like, don't you dare. And I'm just like, oh.
I'm like,
Yes, it's in our blood. Yeah.
But I think the more we've become friends, the more we're like, no, we'll just split it, if you know what I mean? But like, at the beginning of our friendship, she was like, no, I'll pay for it. And I'm like, no, you don't let me pay. No, I'll pay for it. But no,
You also just got here. That's just what we do to like people who just came here because you didn't have much.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, I came up during COVID as well, so I
so you didn't have anything.
Yeah, I didn't.
Since you guys both are working with Chinese people, so our next question is: what is the difference between working here and working back home?
For us, not a massive amount. There's a more laid back culture to foreigners here, unless you're in an international school.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you can see the difference, like how we are compared to how Chinese people are. There's a very hierarchical structure. Like my boss said, I do this, so I do this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's very little like linear thought or common sense placed around it. Like, ooh, they want like back to it and go like, oh, actually, I don't think that'll work because of this that's going on. They'll just be like, yeah, we need to do it.
Yeah, we have to do it.
Whereas obviously for me as the manager at my school, I'll tell these guys like, hey, this is what we need to do. Let's all come together and think of any problems we might have and how we can go a solution. I always say like Chinese people are really good at reacting to things, but they're not great at doing organized planning.
Yeah.
And it is immensely frustrating to a certain extent. But again, it's difficult to say what that'd be like for a Chinese person in the company as well.
I also feel like there's like more of like a workplace family vibe over here, or like community vibe. Like every time, like when it comes to Chinese New Year, we have like the Chinese New Year party and everyone has to perform a dance and a song. Where if you've done that back in England, they'll be like,
every company in England goes, we're a family here.
yeah.
And that just means we want to pay you less. Yeah, I'd say it's a lot freer for us, but a lot stricter for the Chinese side of things.
But I do, like I said, I do think there is more of a community sense to things over here. Like, you know, within the classroom, there's a lot more like banter and stuff, and you know, there's a lot more things like that happen over here. But again, I think that's due to the leniency that we do get. We kind of create that environment which allows the staff to be more relaxed with us.
Yeah.
But then with each other, they still have that hierarchy system.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're working with your friends, which to be honest, all the teachers at our school, we all get along really well and everything.
Because there's some staff that will come and hang out with us.
Yes, we do have some.
You know, and they will come with us, but like some of the Chinese staff live together and they actively don't hang out together.
Yeah.
Whereas we obviously don't live with each other and stuff, but the Chinese staff will come out with us, and they'll have a drink with us, and they'll have a laugh with us, and you can see which ones have got a bit more of a Western mindset, as it were. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics in everything. Like it's like anything, you know, if we try and say this is how it is, someone's gonna have a different experience.
Yeah, that's
different schools are gonna have a different experience. Like even within our company, because our campus is very made on who I am, which is very laid back kind of person.
Yeah, you've hired people.
I've hired that kind of people. But maybe another campus has hired like go-getters who are like, all right, we need to be the best at everything, we need to do everything.
What do you dislike the most about Chinese people?
A complete inability to use common sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, being in management, I want to plan things ahead as much as possible. Because if I've planned ahead, it makes it easier for these guys to implement it, which then makes the results better for the kids. But they don't think like that. They just throw something in there and they're like, do this. And you're like, we planned something 3 months ago. We've been working on it for 3 months. You want us to just completely change this? Use a bit of common sense. Like, it makes more sense for us to do this. We could look at doing that and maybe do it at a time when it fits better. But again, that kind of boils back down to my manager told me this. I must do this. Or sensible things. Again, sometimes you'll see like a class gets isolated because kids are sick.
Yeah.
So they'll detox the entire room. They'll blue light it. They'll clean every nook and cranny.
Yeah.
And then because that class is isolated, they don't go outside at the same time as another class. But then they'll go outside before the other classes, and they'll play with all the footballs and the basketballs. And you're like,
which are not disinfected.
Yes.
You're doing the you might as well just let them intermingle.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot. AC. Oh my
Oh, the
god.
ACs! No!
Oh, right. So, with AC, when you turn it on, especially in winter, it gets really cold in Beijing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Minus 10, minus
It's already
20s.
cold already.
And so we'll put the AC on.
Yeah.
And two things about the ACs, actually. One, Chinese people have a real different opinion on what level an AC should be set to everyone else.
Drives me crazy.
Yeah, they're like, oh, it's just a casual 26 degrees. I'm like, that's hotter than what England gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then winter, they're like, oh, it's just a casual, like, 10 degrees. Right. But secondly, I don't know if this is just like a holdover from when they went to school and no one's corrected the mentality, but they'll put the AC on, but they'll open the window. And you're like,
What's the point?
I'm like, oh, it's to let the bad air out. I'm like, okay. It's also letting all the heat out,
But in the classrooms, they've also got the air purifiers, which would.
which would do that.
So
Common sense.
it goes back to the common sense
Like,
thing.
again, and not to sound weird, but it's in my opinion because it is not an individualistic country. It's a common goal country. So because this is what they've always been taught, they never really have to think for themselves. They're taught this is what everyone believes or everyone thinks. Or
So
everyone
that's what I
does.
do. Yeah.
So therefore,
Yeah.
So therefore, I just follow this because this is what I've been taught. You know, it's the same as if you raised someone in complete isolation and you only taught them like your beliefs. They're going to grow up with those beliefs. It's the equivalency, but on a obviously national scale. A slightly more nitpicky one. Inability to communicate in Chinese to each other. It is
In Chinese to each other.
Yeah, it is
Maybe
baffling.
that might be a school thing or something.
Maybe it is, but oh my god! Like, so again, because I'm in management, if the Chinese staff need to do something, or they want the English teacher to do something, anything for the English teacher, will come via me. So the academic leader is supposed to tell me what's going on, so that I know, so if they have questions. So they'll have a meeting. They'll come up with this idea for like a Chinese event, and they'll be like, "We want the English teachers to maybe make an English board for it." But then they'll have that meeting, they'll all agree, the academic leader will tell me what's going on, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 have different ideas of what has happened in that thing. And we'll then communicate 7 different ideas to these guys, who then come to me with 7 different things going, what are we doing?
It's happened this week.
And like sometimes you're like, well, okay, I understand like it's translation maybe.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're so wildly different. There's no way it's a translation error. Chinese people a lot of time tend to just hear what they think. They'll go,
They want to hear.
yeah, this is what I think they've said because this is what I want them to have said in this scenario.
Yeah.
This is what I would like to do. I will willfully hear this. But then they communicate that to us and it is infuriating.
I have one. It's Chinese medicine and Chinese mindsets when you're sick.
Oh, fever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, fever is a
When
bit,
we're
yeah.
at school, and we get sick often because we work around children, they just cough in your faces. Happens in every school around the world. But as soon as you're sick, you go to the nurse and you say, not feeling well. Do you have a fever? No, I don't. Let me check your temperature. No, don't have a fever. You're fine. Do I look fine to you? No. You could literally be dragging yourself around the school on your hands and knees and they'll be like, you ain't got a fever, it's all right.
Yeah.
And then they just go, I'll just have some hot water.
Oh, God, hot water.
Don't get me wrong, in the winter I do drink more hot water because I prefer it, And I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I do think it does have some benefits to it.
Yeah.
But not to cure my illness, It just...
Oh, you've got cancer? Hot water.
Yeah, you're dying. Have some hot water. You burnt your hand. Have some hot water.
You got shot? Oh,
Have
hot
some
water.
hot water. So when it comes to like Western medicines and stuff like that, we will, every time we go back home or someone goes back home, the first thing any foreigner says is, can you get me paracetamol? Can you get me ibuprofen? Yeah, please. Oh, can you get me like nasal spray and things like that? We always stock up on medicine. Like we make sure. And if any other foreigner's sick, it's like, do you need some paracetamol? Do you need some ibuprofen? Like we'll always like help each other out to give each other Western medicine. And even when you go to the doctors, they'll give you like Chinese medicine along with a Western medicine.
Yes.
But even when you look at the Western medicine, you're looking at it going, I don't know about this. And we do like loads of research on it, even if it's in English. We're just like, I just don't know if it's right, and we still probably take more of the
Yeah.
Western ones that we know because that's what we're used to.
And the thing is, like, I don't want to disparage like all of Chinese medicine because, like, there are things that do work. There are like, you know, these people over here have always used this herb.
Yeah.
It wasn't tested, and it is something that works. But it's like say 5% of Chinese medicine works. It then gets extrapolated to all Chinese medicine works.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not how like that works.
What's the difference between the China you see here and the China people talk about online?
China is a monolith in Western media.
Yeah.
All Chinese think this, but if you look on Weibo, I can't remember. Weibo.
Yes.
But you can see on there, people do have opinions, political. They might get shut down if they get too extreme.
Yeah.
But if they don't get too extreme, they're allowed to have their opinion online, as it were.
Yeah.
There is this idea that it is all authority, all this.
You can't talk about anything to do with like the government.
But if you talk to Chinese people, they're generally speaking more than happy to give you their opinion.
Yeah.
You might disagree with it, but they're happy to tell you about it.
Yeah.
And like, it's not like they're hiding their opinions from people or anything, or you know. So yeah, I'd say that's the biggest difference.
Yeah, definitely to do with the whole, like, oh, the government says this and all the Chinese people would agree and, whoa, march on, let's go, you know. But no one really, you know, no one really cares. It's like being back in England when you've got the government and stuff like that. Like, how often does the government really affect like everyday life and stuff like that? You know, you don't really hear about the people of England very much.
No.
Same with China. You don't really hear about the people of China. You hear about like blah blah blah's talking to this leader and there's war in this country and blah blah blah. But you don't really hear about the people themselves. So you just kind of think to yourself, especially when COVID happened and everything like that, everyone was like, Chinese people are a disease. And it's like, no, there's just a virus that's going around. Why have you pinpointed all people as a disease all of a sudden, you know? But that's basically it. Is that like, don't listen to the media, don't listen to everything you see online. You know, do your own research on things. Actually come here and experience yourself and
speak to people here.
Speak to people.
Well, when we got married, we talked to the priest and we were telling him, like, we were having this discussion with him. He was like, I was like, because you get this, if you listen to just Chinese things, you'll get only the Chinese stuff.
Yeah.
If you listen to just Western things, everything's horrific. And he was like, where do you think I should get my, like, information from? Like, actual, I was like, apart from talking to people on the ground and getting their personal opinion, it's very hard to get, like, an actual honest, on-the-ground opinion of it, because you'll either have one extreme or the other.
Yeah, no, definitely. The only place in Beijing specifically that people would go, oh yes, it's very militant around here and blah blah blah, would be near this Tiananmen Square. You know, because it is the centre. There are police everywhere.
That's where the Forbidden Palace is, the centre of ancient China. Well, not ancient China, but modern ancient China.
So there are a lot of police around, and you know, there is a lot of like security and stuff. But the thing is that I've been stopped there several times. When you go to Tiananmen Square, make sure you bring your passport.
Or at least pictures.
Or pictures of your passport. It's always good to have that, because as a foreigner, you are bound to get stopped by the police. Not in a malicious way at all. It's basically just to make sure, like, hey, where are you going? Can we just check your documents, see if you're all right? The police, I think about 90% of them can actually speak English to a degree.
At least in those areas.
In them areas, near the centre.
And in high tourist traffic areas.
Definitely, yes.
They will have to be,
Yeah, exactly. And when they're talking to you, they're not like in England or America where they're like, give me your passport, why are you here? They're literally like, hi, can you just step over here and can we just look at your passport? Like, hey, why are you here? And I remember the last time I got stopped, I was with my parents. I was like, I live here, I'm a teacher, my parents are visiting me. And they're like, oh, that's lovely, enjoy Beijing, have a great time. You know, so they're pretty chill, the police over here, they're not threatening, if you know what I mean.
I would quickly say as well, because that story makes it sound like we were like randomly selected, like at an airport. No, it's just there's a pathway to get in. It's just Chinese people have their IDs, they can get in with that. But because we don't have a Chinese ID, they ask us to come to the side to someone who can check our passport or check our visa or whatever it is you need to get into that area.
So basically, if you do come, don't have a fear that, oh my god, the police has stopped me. They're not doing it in any kind of like malicious way or anything like that. They don't.
But if anything, you're coming here. If you're coming here for like a visit or something, you're bringing us money.
Yeah.
Why do we want to kick you out?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
it
that's
wouldn't make
another
sense.
thing, is the whole, there's cameras everywhere in China, you're constantly being watched, blah, 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 blah.
That is true though, but like
Don't get me wrong.
usually they don't care about you.
This is the thing, yes, there are cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
Personally, I like them because I feel safe over here. Half the cameras back in England don't work,
Yeah.
you know?
Owning cameras.
And the thing is like I've said to everyone, you know, China tracks you through 5G, blah, 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 all the conspiracy people, you know?
They probably do, but we're not that interesting. You know what I mean? Like we're not
interesting.
forming
They don't care about you.
conspiracy. Like I would say, the one thing China did a lot better than like the USSR did, and why it's sustained where the USSR failed.
Yeah.
Is they allowed that ability to have a bit of dissonance. They're not cracking.
Yeah.
Every little thing isn't cracked down on. It's only if it becomes a major issue that they crack down on it. After that, you know, they allow people to just have their own little clubs or to talk to people.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I'm speaking of this as a foreigner.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for Chinese people
No,
who may
definitely
have a
not.
completely different experience to what I have here.
Yeah, definitely. I feel more safer over here than I do in England. Not in a way of like, I feel oppressed and, you know, the Chinese government are watching me. No, I don't think that at all. Even if they were, nothing interesting happening in my life, you know what I mean? So,
But on the flip side of it as well, though, there are some things that are actively true. Like if you see like Taiwan situation, I'm not getting into that, but Chinese people vehemently believe
yeah,
Taiwan is part of China.
yes,
And, you know, I'm not getting into all that, but that is something you see with that is categorically true.
yeah,
And there is a certain extent where people react in a way that you wouldn't expect them to. Like, read the calmest Chinese person in the world,
and they just switch.
the most normal, and there's certain subjects, and they will just,
Snap. Yeah.
no, this is this. Like, how dare
Yeah.
you even
How
talk?
dare you to, yeah.
There are still things like
There's
that
some
that are
sensitive
there.
things, yeah.
But when people arrive here, they say to you, like, don't discuss politics.
Just don't talk about it. Like,
Yeah.
it's not worth it.
What's the point?
What I used to tell teachers who are here on a 6-month thing, I was like, you might not agree with everything, but you're not going to change 5,000 years of history
Exactly.
in
Yeah.
the space of 6 months. Mate.
Yeah.
Like, you're not. You know, even the Communist Party, 75 years now this year.
75.
You're not going to
Yeah.
change 75 years of history in 6
No.
months. Like, so,
There's just no point to argue things like that.
yeah.
No point in arguing yet. It's not going to affect your daily life.
Yeah.
Go roam the streets and be free.
I would be interested to revisit this in, like, let's say 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it is, right? Well, America's declining and China's on the ascendancy.
Yeah.
It's easy to do that while China's on the rise and has money coming in and is doing well and is constantly doing well.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to revisit this particular bit of the conversation if China does start declining at any point.
Do a 10-year
And to
follow-up.
see how, you know, what the experience would be like comparatively then.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to be good when things are going well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at England. In the 90s, we were doing amazingly.
Oh, yeah.
No one
Yeah.
cared what the government were doing.
Yeah.
Now we're doing badly. Everyone cares what the government's doing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
That was a very sensitive topic.